Welcome to our live today. We're going to be talking about depression and all of the alternative things that you can do to help with that. There's a lot of material to cover today. This one's definitely going to get a little long. So
we're going to try to do the technical stuff quickly so we can spend more time on yes, this can be dealt with
this and that. It is available as a blog. So, and this video will also be posted on YouTube and Facebook. So you'll be able to review it whenever you want. You can watch part of it today, part of it tomorrow. But we know this is going to be a long one. But depression is a very serious topic. It leads to very serious things like suicide. So we don't want to skip over anything. We want to cover this one really well. So in case you didn't know, I'm Valerie, and this is my mom, Laurie, and we've been playing around in the essential oil world collectively for 50 years. She's been playing around in it for about 30, and I'm about 25. So yeah, we've been playing around with oils for a long time, and we're really passionate about essential oils, and we want people to get to where they use them and they think about them as the first thing. So an example would be yesterday. I was hurrying around my kitchen doing my dishes, and I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been. And I reached under a dish towel and to pick it up, and there was a bread knife in it, and it sliced my finger open. Well, I didn't even notice, which is really pathetic and sad. I went right back to what I was doing, and as soon as I stuck my hands in the dishwater, I realized, it stung, and I lifted up my finger, and I'd sliced it right across right there. I don't know if you can see it, probably not. Anyway, it was bleeding even in the dishwater. So I thought, well, that's great. Now I've introduced it to all those germs. And I thought, well, that's really no big deal. So I went and got some yarrow, and not only did the yarrow disinfect it, but it closed up the cut. And I thought, man, I'm sure grateful for God's pharmacy. But if I'd had to look at a book, as big a hurry as I was in, I might not have, and I might have been dealing with an infection, and instead it's no big deal. So that's why we do these lives, is because we want to teach people about essential oils. We want them to become a daily part of your life. We want them to be something that you use. So let's dive in and talk about depression. It's nice to see so many of you joining us, and I love the comments that we're getting. I love your essential oils, grateful for your oils. And this one is awesome. It says, great subject. And yeah, this is a difficult topic and we knew it would take a lot of time, but it's been a long time.
It took a lot of time to write it.
So
it wasn't easy to do.
Here we go into depression. Woohoo.
Okay, where do we want to start?
With our analogy.
Maybe.
Breaking free of the sadness.
Maybe before we go there, you hear that word bandied about a lot. Oh, I'm feeling depressed. And so as we go along here in a minute, we're going to do some definitions of depression and talk about different some of the symptoms. But for me, the key is it's not just sadness. We're all often sad, and we have terrible things that happen to us in our family, and we lose people and friends, and there's grief. But for me, it's a persistent sadness, and a sadness that interferes with life. My definition of health is being able to do whatever I want at full speed as long as I want. And if a sadness that I feel has persisted and I no longer enjoy the things I used to enjoy,
yeah, everybody gets
pretty sure I'm headed into depression.
And to have a bad day, that's normal, but to have a bad month, that's not.
It's not so normal.
So persistent is the key word to depression.
Persistent and not enjoying the things that used to bring you joy.
Yeah.
That for me is the.
So we're going to talk a little bit about clinical depression, or the clinical definitions, different types of depression, basically. So there's persistent depressive disorder. And
as medical speak for, it lasted longer than 2 years.
Yes, it is.
And it may be sometimes really severe and sometimes not so severe, but the joy is never there.
For over 2 years. The next one is postpartum depression. And we're all probably familiar with this one. That's the one that hits you after you've had a baby or sometimes towards the end of a pregnancy.
So just for fun, entertaining your mind, those of you that have had children, were you sad after your baby? I was a midwife for a long time, and when I can get women to talk to me freely, I often find that there is a letdown after a birth, and a beautiful home birth doesn't change that. It's like there's something about those shifting hormones and accepting responsibility. Those are called baby blues, and that is not postpartum depression. That turns itself around. The joy of that child, that turns around. So what is a postpartum depression?
That's a full-blown major depression that began during the pregnancy or immediately after delivery.
we often look for the trigger. What was the trigger to that? Did the birth not go as the mother planned? Is she nutritionally deficient? Are things in the family not working well? And sometimes all of those things we'll talk about are a factor. And sometimes it's only hormones. Sometimes it's a feeling of being overwhelmed. And as they get overwhelmed, especially if there's other children and things get behind and,
A lack of sleep.
then the guilt sets in, and after the guilt comes criticism of yourself. I mean, it can be a really bad downward spiral. The thing that scares me most about postpartum depression as a midwife is that most women would rather cut off their right arm than admit that they aren't just tickled pink to have this new baby.
Yep.
And it's easy, even for a midwife working closely with the woman, to miss. I'll never forget a neighbor woman coming to me that I'd known. She's a dear friend, and saying, "You going to deal with my daughter-in-law's depression or what?" I had no clue. The baby was 4 days old. I had been back in the home multiple times. I had missed it. She'd been in the shower. She'd been asleep. I was being ducked and missed it.
So it's important for people that are close to mom to watch for this one, because it can go from bad to really bad really quickly.
Husbands,
very
pay
important.
attention.
And your places to start are be with hormones and with nutrition.
Absolutely.
And sleep.
And heart song oil.
No mom is getting enough sleep.
Heart song oil turns it around faster than anything if you got these other factors in there.
That is a fascinating oil for any type of depression. If you're not sure if you got postpartum or clinical depression or seasonal affective
or whatever
disorder,
it is,
you don't know what you got going on, start with heart song.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the next clinical depression we're going to talk, or clinical definition, is seasonal affective disorder. And these are people who get depressed at a certain time of the year.
Or it gets worse in the winter.
Yep.
And the
lack of sunlight.
We used to laughingly say about one dear soul when we'd go to Arizona, he would just lay down on the sand in front of the house, and I would have to post a sign behind mine that said "Sun worshiper, he's fine," because he would soak up the sun every February.
And that's a vitamin D deficiency.
Yes, it is.
And can often be turned around or prevented large amounts if you start taking the vitamin D in the fall.
Yeah, you gear up for these things. You don't wait till they happen.
You know that you're prone to it, so you don't let it do that.
And what I realized over the years is that one of the key symptoms of seasonal affective disorder is sleep disorders.
Yep.
Sleeping too much, 14 hours a day is not enough, or not being able to sleep at all. It's a sunlight thing. It's a pineal gland thing and hypothalamus.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
So
hypothalamus. I can say this word, yes. Anyway, and so it requires light to straighten that around.
Light, because you get the vitamin D from light.
Social withdrawal, mood swings. I mean, this can be a nasty one, but it's seen mostly in January and February.
It can be seen in the spring. It's not nearly as common. And I think that is look how much I have to do. That's more your farmers and your.
Yeah.
Okay. Psychotic depression.
Oh my,
this one's very alarming. The person just.
The key to this one is delusion. They believe things that aren't true. And it may be simple little things. It may be delusions of guilt. It may be a poverty consciousness that, there's never enough. Illnesses that don't really exist, or illnesses that are much worse than they clinically are. This one's a lead into even worse ones, but it's pretty scary. But the keys to that are the delusions. So,
okay, bipolar disorder, up and down.
And we all do that, don't we? We all have energetic days, and we all have days when curling up in the corner suits us.
Bipolar is more than that. It's cycling up and then crashing down.
It is. It's the highs. Happy,
no matter what.
Low,
and then sad, no matter what.
And the depression is deep, and it may last. And bipolar has the highs and the lows aren't 6-week intervals. The highs can last for however long they last, and the lows can slap you right out of the blue and last however long they last. And one thing I have learned about bipolar is that sometimes the high places don't manifest. That's not a good place. They're not super productive. They're not super intelligent. They're super irritable. They're super sensitive, so even the high of a true bipolar is not a pleasant place to be.
No, it's too high. Okay, so we are going to get to possible solutions, but we got to do this in order. We got to make sure that you understand depression, and understanding what type of depression you're doing can also help a lot with figuring out what kind of solutions you want. Like, if you don't know that it's postpartum depression, and that, yeah, this started after my baby was born, then you don't think, oh, hormone connection. So this is important, but we will get to solutions. We promise.
Promise we're going to get there.
But the next thing we're going to talk about is
Causes.
the possible causes of depression.
So the only thing I can tell you is I always start whenever I work with anything, with anybody. Well, you start with emotions first. But
Which
second
the
thing,
heart song will cover.
but you're dealing with depression. You got the emotion, okay? It's right there in your face.
Yeah.
But I always start with vitamins and mineral deficiencies because you can't change anything else. You can't change hormones. You can't change how the thymus is working. You can't change how the thyroid is working until you have the nutritional building blocks in place. Repair starts with nutrition.
So that's number one.
Vitamins and minerals.
And we're going to talk about
Absolutely.
different herbs that contain high amounts of vitamins. We're going to talk about oils that help change the way they absorb vitamins and minerals. We are going to get to those in our solutions, half of this. But that is a number one place to start. Another place to start is dietary factors. And again, it comes down to the nutrition thing.
And of course, we're going to lecture you about, and it's
The
do as
rainbow.
we sometimes
Do
do.
as we say, not as we do. We're getting better.
I really don't eat a whole lot of sugar. And for the last 6 weeks, I haven't been able to eat any. For some reason, I just can't do it without a crash.
Vegetables.
Anyway.
Vegetables.
Non-nutritional carbohydrates and sugar will strip nutrients from your body fast enough that you can't pour them in to upset it. So.
We're really big on the whole eating the rainbow with colors, because different colors contain different things. It's important that you get white vegetables and purple
orange ones
vegetables
and yellow ones and green ones
and fruit. One of the things I've been loving this summer is the farmers market down in Logan. I go down there once a week and buy a few vegetables. I really like frozen vegetables because I don't have to worry about them going bad. Frozen corn, but I go down and get a few fresh vegetables, and then I've just been loving the apricots to death.
So I bought some, and you brought me some, and I keep giving them away to people.
The fresh vegetables.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, my beets ran away yesterday.
Your beets. A small garden will provide you with quite a few vegetables, but just getting a daily vegetable is a huge thing for dealing with depression.
And
a
for
lot of
dealing
people
with
don't.
inflammation and blood glucose levels.
We don't eat enough vegetables, but we're going to get my little speech on whole grains too.
I remember a little niece at my house one day looking at her plate so oddly, and I said, "What? And she's 1, 2, 3. I didn't even know there were 5 vegetables, let alone on my plate at one time.
Today. I got to tell you a funny story. We went to the farmer's market, and I was so excited when I saw that they had apricots, and I turned and I handed one to my 4-year-old who loves fruit. That girl will eat enough fruit to give herself diarrhea if you let her. So I handed her this apricot, and she looks at me like, "What is it?" And so I broke it in half, and and I'm like, "Just try it. You'll like it. It's an apricot." She goes, "I don't know what an apricot is." And I said, "Just take one bite." So she did. She took a bite of that apricot. She goes, "How many can I have?" We'd arrived at that. Yep, I like those.
Before we do dietary factors, I want to get a little scientific for just a second. Okay.
I'm not done with dietary factors either.
Okay. Well, what I want to go off on is the fact that sugar and carbohydrates that have no dietary value eventually lead to things like hyperglycemia. They lead to blood sugar issues. And when you do that, there's a funny little chemical produced in the brain called glutamate. And glutamate triggers depression, anger, anxiety, and panic attacks.
Or eating the depression.
And, pay attention. If you binge out on sugar, where are you in 4 to 12 hours? Angry, depressed,
Was it worth it?
But it makes you feel good for a minute, doesn't it?
So I gave up bread for a couple of years as part of a diet. I didn't want to get big and fat and, the whole blood glucose thing. I actually gave up bread, and I did it for years and years and years. And a few months ago, I ran into someone telling me how wheat in its whole form contains 40 of the 44 nutrients essential to life. And I know I'm not getting enough vitamins and minerals in my diet. And I felt so good about it. I thought, I'm going to give it a try. And I went home and I made this wonderful smelling loaf of homemade bread. It smelled so good. It got out of the oven. And I couldn't wait to eat it. And I sliced it and I buttered it and I put my jam on, and I couldn't. I went, "But you don't eat bread. Bread makes you fat." And I had a really hard time getting my mind around that. And I read all the literature. I knew that the fiber was going to help me absorb other things in my diet, that it was going to help straighten out my colon. But I had a really hard time making myself eat that whole grain, whole wheat bread that I knew was good for me. And it triggered a cleanse for the first month that I was on it. I was doing some colon cleansing and some wonderful things. Yep. But I make sure I get at least 2 whole grains a day, not always in bread form. I'm starting to branch out and eat it in cereals and different things. And I love my bread. But the one thing that I've really noticed about my whole grains is when I eat them consistently, I do not crave sugar.
Yep.
And particularly chocolate. And I'm a chocoholic. Like, you wouldn't believe I'm a chocoholic. I don't. I will get to the end of the day and realize I haven't had any.
Yep.
I haven't even wanted any. And I could go get some now, but I don't really need to.
That doesn't work for your father. He eats lots of whole grains. But
I don't
also
know.
loves sugar.
But I read a book by Sue Becker called The Essentials of Whole Grain Flour, and she talks about different grains and how they're good for you, but how it's important that we not eat them broken down. And you can't buy it on the market. You buy bread and it'll say whole wheat, but it is not whole grain. It is whole wheat, but that means it's made with 100% wheat flour, but only half of the grain. And
But
if you don't have it all,
the bran was removed and put back,
which makes it hard to digest.
Going to be difficult.
It's important that it's not been sprayed with weed sprays and all that. That's what they're blaming all of our gastrointestinal issues on. And they're right. They're just not telling you the whole story. The rest of the story is that in order to absorb all of the vitamins that whole grains offer us, we have to have all of it.
Wheat. Buy
God
oats.
made it perfectly.
Do them yourself. Yeah.
Yep. Grind them yourself or eat them in a whole form. So that has been absolutely life-changing for me. So there we go. If we're going to talk about eating healthy, that is huge. Okay, gastrointestinal issues. And she kind of covered this a little bit, but she didn't talk about serotonin.
I did not. It's really hard to have the proper chemicals in the brain if your gut isn't working. And that is very simply because most of those chemicals are produced in the gut. I think it's around 90% of serotonin is produced in the intestinal tract. But even more importantly than why it's produced, it's the body's ability to deal with excesses of it. The little ways that serotonin is scooped up and excreted are also in the intestinal tract. Yeah. So for a bipolar person, both the highs and the lows are too often created by the gut. I just can't tell you. You have to, whatever it takes, drink enough, eat whole grains, whatever it takes.
Give up your soda pop.
Get your intestinal tract working. Yeah. What does working mean? More information than you want. You should have a bowel movement after every meal. If you have less than 2 of those a day, you're going to be in trouble.
You're not working
way sooner than you want to be. Okay.
And it shouldn't be hard. So this should be an easy thing.
Serotonin is only one. I could sit here for a couple of hours and talk to you about that, because serotonin is only one of those chemicals. And, scientifically, they know that some of these transmitters in the brain are absolutely overwhelmingly tied to depression. The hippocampus, if it is not out of 9,000 participants in one study, nearly all of them showed deficiencies in neurotransmitters that were produced in the gut. You cannot avoid depression if you do not get the nutrition that you need, the ones that are produced and absorbed and handled by the intestinal tract. I can't say it any other way. So.
Cynthia, I like your comment. I appreciate when people appreciate the time that we've got into studying and talking and being here. I appreciate that. That makes me feel better. So thank you for that.
Before I leave that subject, I try not to do this too often, but just for fun, pick up a physician's desk reference or go to one online and see how many basic over-the-counter, not even prescription medications, list diarrhea as a side effect. Diarrhea or constipation.
We can't get our guts in health if we're taking drugs. Okay, another cause or a reason that you could be doing depression is a major life change. Some of us take life in stride and some of us don't. Going off to college, having your first child, getting married. These major life changes can throw us into...
If your nerves are already on edge, this will throw you over. It'll gobble up all your B vitamins and all your magnesium, and there you are.
They can be a trigger for depression. And the answer is in nutrition, but there's some essential oils that can help you to deal with those emotions.
And it isn't always the bad things. I mean, sometimes something you've worked for forever and getting it is a major life change enough to throw all these neurotransmitters into stress.
Another thing that can start depression is grief. If you're in bereavement, if you are mourning the loss of someone close to you, that can trigger depression. And being aware of that there are many essential oils that help with that, and just don't let it go on too long.
So what's the difference
to
between
grieve.
grief and depression? Okay, for me, sadness, you're grieving the person, but you can remember the good times you had with them.
Yeah.
And you can look forward to good times with remaining family. With self-esteem, you're not looking at yourself as though you're worthless like you do with depression. This person's loss didn't make you less of a person.
Elizabeth Teague, I think that's how you say that, and I'm not even going to attempt that last name because I'll slaughter it, which will make me feel bad. She says, "Thank you for this. I know I have a sugar problem," and I'm gonna throw something really weird out there, but at the worst of my sugar cravings, one thing that really helped me before I discovered whole grain breads, because honestly, I believe that's why they're gone. I mean, I have less sugar cravings now than I have ever had in my
I think
almost
so.
40 years on this earth. But one thing that really helped me was an amino acid, and they're by Shelley's Aminos, and there's just one for sugar cravings, and I don't remember what it's called. She's got one for energy and one to help you sleep, and amino acids are amazing things, and I think I'm taking 3. And I do the one for
I'm
sleep.
taking 5, and I was kind of craving this chocolate stuff I bought this last week, and I thought, okay, what have I done different in my life? And I'm getting the whole grains, and that I've been skipping my aminos.
Yeah, that amino makes a huge
I
difference.
am back on those.
So thanks for that comment, and maybe that'll help you out. I think that she's got a website. I buy them at trade shows. I see her a couple times a year, and it's a 3-month supply for like $20. So it takes me a while to run out. Anyway, so are we done with grief and bereavement?
I think so, except for saying that, well, 2 things. If you're already depressed, grief
Will deepen it.
Well, so much harder. It's so much harder when you're there. And the other thing, and maybe I shouldn't say this because this is nasty comment number 2 on medications, but if I had a nickel for every woman I have worked with over the last 30 years who told me that she was put on depression medication after a loss and wished that she hadn't, because what it did to her was make her numb to both joy and grief, and numb to the grief her children were experiencing, numb to the grief that it didn't, all it did was put off the processing, and it was worse later. I think we need to allow ourselves to grieve, allow ourselves to call a neighbor and a friend and say, I'm having a hard day today. Will you come over?
Yeah.
Being numb is not a way to process grief.
No, it's not. And grief comes in stages. You have to experience those stages. And essential oils and good friends, they can help you experience those stages faster, but they have to be gone through. Life wasn't meant to be painless.
Sorry, it wasn't.
Okay, environmental factors. Unrelenting stress. If you have a job that you absolutely hate, that can be very depressing.
Terminally ill family member that you're caring for.
That can be really hard.
That kind of stress is hard on the nerves. It's hard on the nutritional aspects of the body. It can trigger depression.
But being aware of the fact that this is probably what's triggering my depression, and finding ways to get it downtime, finding essential oils that help you to process those emotions or lift you higher. Love the citruses for this particular thing. Any citrus, it doesn't matter. Grapefruit, lime, lemon, orange, love them all. Tangerine. Anyway, okay, personality is another. There are people who are just more prone to depression. That's part of their personality, part of who they are. I
came across something last night. I wasn't even looking for this. It was a little quote on Facebook about Eeyore. Now there's a clinically depressed personality, if there ever was. But I look at the way his friends react to him. They never leave him out of a party. They never expect him to put on a face that is not Eeyore. No, they love him as Eeyore. And if we could just do that with people when they're grieving or when they're sad, or even if they're depressed for a lifetime, it's okay. They're who they are. Don't add guilt. Don't add be somebody you're not to their layer of depression.
Yeah. People like that, if that's part of their personality, they tend to focus on the past or the future. They have a hard time staying in the present or staying in the moment.
Absolutely.
They're always talking about what happened last week or yesterday or last year, or what's going to happen tomorrow or next month or next year. And they're not talking about what's going on right now. And it's just part of their personality. And there's essential oils that can help. But
my husband calls that sour grapes and tells me he's had enough of them for this meal.
Enough sour grapes. Oh, yes. We're just about to the end of the causes of depression.
Yes, we are. We can
physical illness, getting hit with something long-lasting like, what's that kissing disease, chronic fatigue or mono, getting hit with one of those, shingles, that can set up
anything chronic.
a depression, and you need to treat.
I'm working on the
both at the
shingles
same
blog
time.
you requested.
Yay, we're going to do shingles. We got a couple of fun ones coming up. She's been working on mastitis, growing pains. We're going to do one on preparing herbal medicines. That one I'm really excited about. Okay, genetics is our last one.
Yes. Does depression run in families? And,
Absolutely.
is it genetic or is it hereditary? Do we ever teach our kids to focus on the negative rather than the positive?
Yeah.
But a genetic component of this.
It's really interesting if a twin
Similar
has
eating
depression.
habits, who knows what it is.
That's part of it. But if a twin has depression, there's a 70% chance that the second twin will get it. That
Even
tells
if
us a
they
lot
live
about
a long
genetics.
ways away and have totally different lifestyles,
Yep.
It's an interesting thought.
So there's something to genetics. All right, what are the symptoms?
But
of
all
depression?
that means, if you have a genetic tendency to depression, is you better get all the nutritional and all the hormones and all. You better get every other duck in a row.
Okay. Symptoms of depression. We're going to give you the most common ones, but there are a myriad, and everybody can present just a little bit differently. And this is by no means a complete list, but we're going to go through really quick. Feeling unusually and almost unbearably sad. A feeling of impending tears that are close by all the time.
Wanting to cry for no reason.
Yep.
But for me, the one I look for is that lack of interest, lack of pleasure in things that they used to enjoy.
Yep.
Changes in appetite, weight gain or loss, trouble sleeping, lack of energy, feeling absolutely fatigued even when you first wake up in the morning.
Slowed movements and speech patterns is actually a sign of depression.
Yes, it is.
And they're typically unnoticed by the sufferer, but they're very apparent to the people.
Yeah, that's generally a thyroid issue, can be an adrenal issue, but hey, either one of those can trigger depression. So
that's right.
I don't care if we're talking physical or emotional. Figure it out. So
there are activities you can watch where somebody who's depressed might sit there and tap their hands all the time, or they might take
hand
to
wringing,
pacing.
big sighs. That's pretty far down the depression road.
Yep.
It's that one scares me.
And then this one you won't see in other people, but you can watch for it in yourself, and that's feeling worthless or feeling guilty all the time.
Yep.
Difficulty thinking, concentrating, or making decisions can be a sign of depression. A lot of people that just have a hard time making decisions, and they're not depressed. This would be someone who used to be able to and can't.
Yeah, it's the changes in behavior. So,
and then of course, when you're clear down the bottom, then there's the thoughts of death, the suicidal thoughts, and
generally those are accompanied by certain word cues. I mean, they will say things like, you say, well, what can I help you? And they will say things like, you're not trained in that field, or they will give you clues that they're thinking serious thoughts of there's no other way out for the way I feel. Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, we're gonna have a little exercise here. We're gonna do a visual. So if you're watching this video, you can quit watching it and close your eyes.
How nice! I like that.
This. Well, maybe they won't. Also, don't pick your nose or anything. But close your eyes. Picture a relentless storm and sea, and you are a little boat, and you're out there being tossed about by the waves. You're well built, but at the moment you are really struggling. In fact, it feels like every moment that you are about to sink. It is impossible to know which direction to go in the storm. In addition, there doesn't seem to be any nearby harbor of safety. It's all you can do just to stay afloat. The waves are constantly crashing into you. There is no rest or relief in sight. Anybody who's suffered from depression knows that this is exactly how it feels like. And that's why it's important for us to watch for depression in ourselves and not let it get horribly bad. It's also why it's important for us to watch for it in our kids and the people that are around it.
And there's one other thing, here that we didn't add to this story, but you're on that boat all by yourself.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how many people are on the boat with you. It's your job to take care of it.
And it feels like you're on that boat by yourself. It feels
like you're all alone.
You are in real peril physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Yeah. So it's very important. Depression is not something to be played around with.
It can ruin relationships, cause problem at work, lead to drug addiction, even result in suicide. So,
which brings us to our next point, which is the failure to treat. When we do not treat depression, it becomes dangerous.
And being told by our neighbors, oh, smile or think positive,
doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It feels like you're being criticized. It makes the problem worse. I remember hearing someone say to someone, well, if you were just more spiritual, If you read your scripture, I never wanted to bloody a nose so bad in my life. You know,
No,
how was this helping?
the thing to do is to help them figure out what's causing it. Is it a nutritional deficiency? Is it an inability to absorb the nutrition that they're putting into their body? Is it a dietary thing?
You give them hope by telling them there are causes that can be dealt with.
And helping them figure out what those causes are.
And you don't tell them it's their fault that they're broken.
And they just need to buck up and be that don't do this. Okay, so the failure to treat can lead to major causes. It ruins relationships. I did a seminary. I did depression. I did this as an early married person, and I outdrove my husband crazy.
I could honestly say until a year ago, I had never done depression.
Depression is
I can't say that anymore.
So I did it as a fairly young person. I was 18, 19, and I did years of it, which was no fun for anybody.
Think being my daughter, I could have reached in and helped better, wouldn't you?
Well, this was 20 years ago, and I wasn't letting anybody in.
You were not.
Because I knew what was causing my depression, and I didn't want to talk about it. I still don't want to talk about it, but we don't do the depression anymore. Anyways, at the height of my depression, when I had finally admitted that I was depressed, which I wasn't willing to do for a long time, but when I had finally admitted that I was depressed, I went to a seminar where they were talking about depression and the effects it has on relationships. And they started quoting statistics for people who divorce rates and different things like that. I had never been so depressed in my life. It was depressing. It was horrible.
The depression seminar made you feel worse.
It did. I went out of there going, and I learned about the serotonin thing and the gut health. And I mean, there were some answers there, but I couldn't figure out how to increase my serotonin levels. I didn't know how to fix my gut. I didn't want to be divorced, but I didn't know how to deal with it. It was very depressing, and there weren't a lot of answers at that seminar, so that really sucked. Like, we're going to get to some possible solutions at the end of this. They never did. I stayed there for 2 hours waiting for them to get to possible solutions, and they never got there, and it was very depressing. So, which for a person who's already depressed, it's not good.
And why could you not tell your mother?
We're not going to go there.
Not online, anyway.
Not online. But it can cause problems at work. It can lead to drug and alcohol addictions, and eventually it can even lead to suicide. So failure to treat depression is just awful.
I want to go on record as saying I was not unaware that she was struggling.
No, she wasn't.
I was not.
And my parents ultimately did provide the answer that started me on the up road. My dad gave me a call one day and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing," because I was never doing anything. And he says, "Well, your mom needs your help. You need to come help her with this business. She's overwhelmed." And it took me a few weeks of being there to realize that she'd have survived without me. But by then I felt useful. I felt
she had found,
and I was around the oils, whether they were the right ones or not. I was around them, and they helped.
And she was eating what we eat at our house,
which helped a lot too, instead of what a newlywed can cook or fathers to cook. Anyway.
Yes. And by the way, she did save me. This place grew faster than I could have ever handled. She took on websites and computer things, and yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go back to our analogy with the little boat in the storm. So everybody close their eyes again. Don't pick your nose, Mom.
Oh, stop. She's gonna get back at me here.
All right, everybody back to closing your eyes. Take this seriously.
You ruined that analogy.
Nope, we're not back to
we're
the boat.
Not
Sorry.
Back to the boat. I was gonna say.
No, this is my mom's. So in the front of every book that she's written, and she has written 4 to date. There's one about essential oils, there's one about herbal remedies, and there are 2 about homeopathics. But in the front of every book, and I think they're slightly different. They talk more about each modality, but she has a section called Hope Renewed, and it is basically about surviving the storms of life.
And you know, serious storms overtake all of us from time to time. And the point of healing, I mean, the beginning of history, mankind has looked for ways to heal without making things worse.
Yeah.
And so I hate that word alternative, because in my life for the last 40 years, herbs and oils and homeopathics, they haven't been alternative. When I go to the doctor for stitches, or I go there to that's an alternative, you know.
Herbs and oils are the original medicine.
They were, and so I like the word holistic better. I don't know what it means really, but because it's an illustration of trying to heal the whole body rather than just put out a little fire that's coming on. If you treat depression only from the emotional side, you'll never get there. Mm-hmm. It has too many physical causes. So rather you're going herbally, and please don't ever stick to one modality. No. Oils are wonderful, but sometimes you need an herb, and sometimes you need a homeopathic, and sometimes you need to change your diet, and sometimes you need to get off your duff
And
and
it's rarely
exercise.
just one. There's usually more than one. But in her Hope Renewed, in her book, that she talks about gratitude. And I found this very useful with my own depression. If I could take a few minutes and the things that were maybe the most depressing to me, if I could think about them and find a way to be grateful for part of whatever was going on, it changed the way I looked at that problem. It wasn't so depressing, and I felt better just being grateful. And that's the way herbs and oils and homeopathics work. If you're grateful for them and you're grateful for the things that they're helping you with, they will help you 10 times more.
Gratitude for absolutely anything will help you fight depression.
Yep.
And it will make the herbs and the oils more effective.
Yep.
It will make them happier. They're living things just like you are. They will participate in your depression if you do not show gratitude for
I'm
them.
going to read this little section. It's called Joy in the Journey. It says, to live in the realm of healing with God's living pharmacy and the knowledge available to us is to live in hope.
Absolutely.
It is also the taking of a fuller measure of responsibility for ourselves, our welfare, and our happiness. So in other words, we're taking care of ourselves instead of leaving it to
There's
someone
nothing
else.
more depressing than to see no way out or nothing you can do. So
Yep.
take responsibility and do something, even if it's wrong. You'll feel better.
I love this. The accepting of this responsibility, coupled with gratitude to our Creator, blesses and strengthens us in a myriad of ways. I hope you are finding as much joy in your healing journey as I have found in mine. A further measure of joy will be found in helping your family and in reaching out to others with the solutions that you find. It's important to find joy in the journey and not get bogged down in there's so many different herbs and I just don't know what to do. Just be grateful for the times when you do.
I remember my mom after her cancer treatment, and she was so weak. And I pulled my travel trailer in next door so I could help get my little sister off to school each day. But I remember being told literally by the Spirit to take my little sister over there and kneel her down by Mom's bed and let Mom comb her hair every day. Now, my mom survived the cancer, by the way, lived another 45 years. And I just remember Mom was doing something for someone else. And I think that's a key piece of overcoming any kind
Absolutely.
of difficulty in your life.
Find something that you can do for someone else daily, even if it's just a little thing, even if it's just sending an email, because that's all that you have the strength to do, to let someone know that you appreciate them.
Yeah.
That is a huge part of it.
All right, let's move on. Possible solutions.
Possible solutions. Now, depression obviously has some personal, what do you want to say? It rings with me in a very personal way. And so a few years ago, I actually designed a kit that had the major things that the top maybe 5 products that are used for depression. And so they don't fit into essential oil category and herb category because you got a little bit of everything.
Yes, you do.
Kit.
I'm good at it.
But this kit is called the Better Me Kit. And there's a flip side to this kit that's just called the Better Half Kit. And
See, I learned something about everything.
they were kind of created for a Valentine's thing because Valentine's Day is February, and February is the worst
month for depression.
It is the worst month for depression. It's the highest suicide
December
rate.
is close.
Yep. And it's because you've just survived all the holidays and you've also got the seasonal affective disorder thing
All the
going on.
sugar that you ate.
The suicide rates in February jumped to astronomical levels. So anyway, a little bit about this Better Me Kit. The Better Me Kit was designed to combat depression. If you're depressed, you can't be the best you that you could be in that relationship. And the Better Half Kit was designed for you to do something else. It's massage oils. It is things to pamper your other half.
Someone else.
I love these 2 kits, but we're only going to talk about the Better Me Kit today because this is a depression live, and we're not talking about massage oils. But I do like that kit. Anyway, there's a little video on it. If you go on the website, you can actually watch the video, which is pretty much probably going to be about what I'm going to say in the next 2 minutes. So the first thing in it is Heart Song, and that's because it's the #1 oil for depression, and just diffusing it can just make you feel so much better about yourself. It is happiness in a bottle.
That's what I created it to be.
It's very floral. It's got bergamot in it, which is it smells like roses to me. I love Heart Song.
It was blended for
amazing,
depression.
and it was blended for depression.
For
The second oil in it is Vitality, and Vitality is specific for the cardiovascular, circulatory, and lymphatic systems. It's heart related, and we all know that there's some stuff between the heart and depression. It's also used
why
for
Vitality? Its effect on blood pressure, increasing stamina when you have more to do than you can do. It's treatment of shock. It's way more than just a heart essential oil, even though I created it to fix my own heart issue.
Vitality
Yeah.
just provides you with a hopeful feeling about the state of your health, whereas Heart Song just provides you with a happy feeling about, whatever's going on around you. Vitality specifically makes you feel like
It's about
whatever
hope.
health problems you have, they are curable, even
It's
if
about hope.
people tell you they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about hope.
It's enthusiasm for life.
Yeah.
Then it comes with a carrier oil. It's coconut in this particular kit, and that's just so that you can use the oils as massage oils. Vitality is a great one to put right here. Heart Song is typically one that I diffuse, but you can wear it as a perfume, and you wouldn't even need a coconut. You just put a couple drops on your wrist. That's how I wear it as a perfume. Another thing in this kit is K&A, which is a tincture, and it contains kelp, nettles, and alfalfa. And between those three, they provide you with an enormous amount of vitamins and minerals.
And even a couple of interesting proteins.
Yeah. Calcium, vitamin C, vitamin A, it has an incredible amount. It packs a good punch of nutrition. So K&A is awesome. And then the last thing in this kit is a vitamin D supplement. And we know that vitamin D plays into depression in a huge way. And it is one that I suggest you start taking in the fall. But if you buy the kit in February, better late than never. Start taking it. And vitamin D is just amazing. And the deficiency will contribute to a host of conditions. Bone disease, rickets. And vitamin D changes the way that you absorb other vitamins and minerals. It's huge.
Here's a little depressing note. Okay. People, as they age, their kidneys are usually less able to convert vitamin D to its active form.
Yep.
So take care of your kidneys. I fought a kidney issue all of my life. And if I'm not careful, I don't absorb vitamin D. And so stay right on those. There are tinctures and essential oils. There are ways to keep those kidneys functioning.
And if you're not absorbing vitamin D, then maybe adding a little KT or KB and drinking lots of water, get those kidneys up and doing what they're supposed to. Regular foot zones are a great way to get your kidneys functioning better. But vitamin D is often referred to as the sunshine vitamin. And that's the only other way to get it. If you're not supplementing vitamin D, the only way you're going to get it is from the sun.
I do pay attention to that. No matter what kind of a house flower I think I am, I get out in the sun.
Well, as a culture, we don't spend as
that.
much time in the sun as our ancestors
It doesn't take very many minutes.
Yeah.
It only takes
Okay, so we're going to start with herbal remedies. Herbal remedies are going to be, we're going to get to essential oils, but we're going to start with herbal remedies because depression is very often linked to nutritional deficiencies. It just is.
And the nutritional deficiencies have hit the nervous system first. So we're going to start with the ones that are created to be nerves. So
depression and herbal remedies. So your nerve ones, there are quite a few of them. We're going to go over them very quickly because honestly, in picking a nerve remedy, you need to read all the information about all of them. But
we'll just say NV is the big guns. It's the major one. NS was created for those people who react poorly to a couple of the big guns at NV. So it's a little milder, equally as effective. You're less likely to react to it. Nerve tonic is just another, as I worked with people foot zoning over the years, I tailored tinctures to them. And so we wound up with these three different blends.
And NT tends to hit that PMS, postpartum baby blues better than the other two.
Anything else. It's my favorite one. It suits me better. And then there's the children's nervine formula, the NVC.
And that one we done in glycerin.
And I love it for adults too, but it's done in glycerin so that you can get it down children. Mild depression, it's an excellent formula even for adults.
And then BBL is another nerve one, but it's a really good one for a sleep aid to take late at night, right before you go to sleep.
Or a pain reliever. If you
BBL.
Have aching back or whatever you have going on when you're trying
One
to
of
sleep.
these days we ought to do a live just on BBL.
We could do that. I could
BBL
take half an hour on BBL and not stress that at all.
101 uses of BBL. I like it. Anyway, any remedies that support the digestive and intestinal health. So we're going to go over those really quickly. Tinctures that do that are CAN, and this one is for the candida overgrowth that often gets us in the gut. And one sign of that would be the craving of sugar. If you're craving sugar, there's a possibility that you have a candida overgrowth that is screaming.
Or some other parasite. We've been brought up against parasites this week rather firmly.
Yes, we have. And parasites, we've done an entire blog on it, but after this week, we're probably going to do some updating because
we've learned a bit.
We're learning a little bit about parasites this week.
What they can do to
they can do to a system or two.
Yeah.
Anyway, so CAN is a tincture that helps to indiscriminately kill the bad bacteria in your gut.
Well, but it doesn't kill the good stuff.
No, it doesn't. It's
So-
very nice
Okay.
about killing just the.
All right. CD is colon
Hair's driving me
digestive,
crazy.
soothing to the intestines. Plantain and marshmallow. And
It's a good
papaya.
one if there's little
They're not-
ulcers in your colon.
Good
And
one.
how would you know that? I mean, if you had a doctor tell you that, or if you had a foot zone saying feel little polyps in your colon, CD is where you're
Yes.
wanting to go.
GI is the gallbladder one. So, and here again, that one, it could take us a whole blog to talk about how to use GI to prevent or reduce gallstones and how to avoid surgery.
But if your gallstone or if your gallbladder, sorry, is not producing the bile that your liver needs, then you don't. It affects the way that your gut works.
For a long time after my first gallbladder round years and years ago, I took GI before any food item went in my mouth. The herbal bitters, our pioneer ancestors used to understand that. You start a meal with a bitter and then your gallbladder kicks in and produces bile.
So
And lo and behold, you digest the food and you don't form gallstones.
it creates the
So,
digestive juices that you need to break your food down. Okay, LC is the other flip side of that. It's the liver one. And the liver and the gallbladder are primarily responsible for creating that bile that you need to create the digestive juices that you need in order to break down your food. So those that the gallbladder and the liver are part of your digestive system. A lot of people think digestive system, that's my stomach and my colon. No, it's also your
No.
liver and your gallbladder.
and your pancreas. Anyway.
And guess what? Every part of your body is connected, but don't forget liver and gallbladder when you're thinking digestive. Okay, we've made it to the
Made it
funnest
to
part,
the oils.
which is depression and
No,
essential
well,
oils.
the funnest part for me is going to be these bok flowers at the end.
Oh, the black powder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we
You can
skip
handle the oils.
homeopathics.
I'm not going to go into the bok flowers one by one. They're going to
So-
have to go read.
The best essential oils for depression are those ones that are in the Better Me kit that we already talked about, your heart song and your vitality. But there are a few more that we really like for depression. Acknowledge is one of them.
The key to acknowledge is discouragement or
Yeah.
fear of what's coming in the future.
And it nourishes the nerves.
Absolutely.
It's one that if you know that your nerves are not being fed properly and you change the nutrition and you start giving your nerves what they need, but acknowledge will help get those things where they need to be
Acceptance of
faster.
what is. It's kind of acknowledge is what will be, you know.
Yeah.
I got through the last horrible
Faith
things. I'll
that
get
life
through
will
it
be okay.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Baby Me is one specifically for baby blues and postpartum depression. But I have used it when my kids are quite old and I have not really doing postpartum. I just love it. It makes me feel pampered. It makes me feel like, oh, it's me
And
time.
it's way too flowery for me.
And I swap that one out when I need me time and meat special. I switch to Sago Lily too, which is not a depression oil, but it does balance
It
male and
works that
female
way,
energies,
though.
and it's
I
my
wonder,
favorite
did
bath
we
oil.
put my favorite one, Sanctuary? Is it even in here?
I don't
I
know.
don't think we did. Huh.
We actually wrote this blog a year ago, so we updated it this time, but this is not fresh information for us, except that we've seen
Except
a
that
little
we
bit
deal
of
with
it lately.
depressive people a lot.
A lot. Okay,
So-
Believe. This one helps to release negative emotions, and it works at a cellular level. So people that work through the same issues over and over and over and over again, this helps to clear them so that they're gone.
And it's almost as like if you find yourself in the same mind chatter when you're trying to fall asleep or when you're driving by yourself down the road,
Yeah.
Believe will help you. My husband used to say, find one good friend and tell it to them one time. And I thought, I wonder if that friend is me and why I keep repeating this to myself over and over again.
Once.
You know, once Believe helps me to do that. Sort the emotion once and put it down.
The next one is Beloved, and Beloved it's an oil that helps with the heart chakra, but it's a relationship oil. It helps you to build and maintain healthy relationships.
And your relationship with heaven.
And your relationship with yourself is very critically important to combating depression. Understanding how much God loves you and how much He can help you with your emotional wounds is key to dealing with depression. Otherwise, we get caught in the trap of blaming God for what's happened to us or the hard parts of our life instead of accepting the fact that He can help us through them.
This may be too much information, but every once in a while I will find myself saying, I'm running on my treadmill and it's a good day. And my husband says, how are you this morning, dear? And I mutter under my breath, who cares anyway? You know, I think, oh, pull out the Beloved, lady, and straighten up. You
Yeah.
know?
Beloved is a good one to combat mood swings and panic attacks that are brought on by those mood swings. So
Oh, Cherish, my all-time
now Cherish is
favorite
a
oil.
pricey oil, and so we're going to detour here. Cherish is not one that you diffuse I have been known to. It's not one that you dump copious amounts of yourself. You just need a little bit. And typically smelling cherish is all that you will ever need to do. So just buy the sample.
I put 3 drops on a little piece of paper towel and put it in a little tiny plastic bag. And I put it in my purse. And I carried those
Months.
3 drops for months.
Yep.
You know.
You don't need very much of this one. So
amazing oil. Osmanthus and jasmine, their aromas stay.
I know therapists that will invest in a full bottle of Cherish so that they can send a couple of drops with people. And that in a little plastic baggie, just like she's saying, or in a little inhaler. But Cherish is amazing. It has Osmanthus, which is one of the most expensive singles that they have. Rosado is actually worse. And it also contains jasmine. And those are both exotic flowers. They are.
And I'm not a flower oil person, but this is my all-time
She likes
favorite.
Osmanthus.
I love the Osmanthus.
They impact the energy.
But watch out. If you wear that
amazing.
into Walmart, people will follow you around wanting
Yes.
to know what perfume you're wearing.
Yes, they will.
They just, it makes them feel good.
And they know, and they recognize that immediately, and they're just like, "Oh, I love that.
I've
What is
had
that?"
people come up to me in the store, and then when I get to the checkout, I can be 5 checkouts down, and they will come out of a shorter line to line up behind me just so they can stand there and pretend to talk to me while they inhale.
What is that? What is that you're wearing? It's an awesome oil. It's a high frequency one. It helps rebuild our emotional balance. It helps us to gain perspective in aftermath of quarrels or traumatic events. It is particularly useful after the loss of a loved one, or even the loss of a cherished hope or dream, something that you've been working towards for a long time and all of a sudden is no longer possible. That's a hard thing to deal with, but Cherish is amazing. That's an absolutely amazing oil. If you've never smelled it, if you ever get up to Butterfly and they have all the oils that you can open and smell, don't forget to smell that one.
Yeah, put a drop on your wrist while you're there.
They love people to come see them. They'll give you a free tour. So, but make sure you smell that one while you're there, or pick up a sample because it's awesome. But it is a little pricey.
Even the samples.
Even the sample's a little pricey. I'll just be honest with you. Okay, the next one is Easy Traveler, and wow, if your depression is causing tightness in your stomach, it's causing you to just, you feel that panic in your stomach as
stress manifested in the digestion.
In the gut. Absolutely.
Yeah,
this one promotes feelings of calmness, emotional strength, the ability to cope with today. It is awesome, awesome, awesome.
Eating disorders respond to this one too. Yeah.
It's also really, really amazing for children who get car sick.
Yep.
So blah, 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 blah. Okay, Eternity. There's only one sentence in the book about this one, but this is it. Eternity is here because it aids the digestive system in absorbing nutrients. That's huge.
Yep.
That's all that really needs to be said about it. Diffusing Eternity in your home changes the way you absorb vitamins and minerals.
And rubbing it on, it's
awesome.
Blend.
Yeah, rubbing it across your stomach is great. I diffuse it, and the reason for that is because I live with 6 children, and I can rub it on me, and that's great. But if I diffuse it, everybody gets some. So I think of that one as a diffusing oil. So, okay, Grateful Heart. We already talked about being grateful a little bit. This one promotes it and makes it so you don't have to work quite so hard at feeling grateful.
Yeah, you just find yourself thinking little happy thoughts.
And it smells good. This is one of the amazing ones to diffuse. You'll diffuse it and people will be, oh, I love that scent. What oil is that? There's some oils that you diffuse and feel like, that's okay. But Grateful Heart, most people love.
What I find with Grateful Heart is when I'm chewing over a problem and it looks to me like this solution, maybe, and this solution, I can see. But Grateful Heart helps me look at it. Just solutions pop into your mind and you're able to find a solution that actually might work, or that, you see the good possibilities of the solutions you're coming up with instead of all the ways it could go wrong.
The next one is Julia and Inside Out. We're going to talk about them together. Julia and Inside Out are both digestive blends. Those two and the Easy Traveler that we already talked about. The Easy Traveler is more specific for motion sickness or car sickness. Julia was designed specifically for children. It's that knots in your stomach.
A newborn baby.
It was used on a brand new baby. It also helps with serotonin and other neurotransmitters. It helps them to thrive and to do their job. So that makes it really important for depression. And then Inside Out is the #1 digestive blend, and it's quite strong. I don't use it on children under maybe 5 or 6.
Not since we've had Julia.
Yeah. You just need to dilute it well. The peppermint is a little, you feel it working. So letting go is
Exactly what it says.
exactly, but we're talking anger. It helps the liver, it supports the liver, but it helps to let go of anger. If you
Letting
feel
go
like
of the past,
your
whatever it is.
depression is stemming from an angry event in your past event that made you
Letting go
angry.
of any emotion from the past.
Yep.
So,
Meditation is another amazing blend for depression, and it
calms my nerves and helps me find compassion instead of annoyance with everything that's going on around me.
meditation is a good excuse to take 10 minutes for yourself. It's a great one to diffuse when you're doing yoga. It just helps us be more receptive to
I
divine
tend to
inspiration.
diffuse it when I can't take time. I'm stuck at my
Hey, so
computer.
it's an excuse. Fascinating.
I like your version better. Let's walk away for a minute.
Okay. Turmoil is one that will help us to view our trials and our problems from a different perspective. We've been looking at this when we're just sure that there's no solutions, and now we diffuse turmoil. So I'm like, well, we could do that, or we could do this, and all of a sudden we see things we didn't see
And
before.
please remember, turmoil, we forget to think of it as a grief oil.
The later
But
stages.
there is a stage of grief that is anger.
Yes,
And you're angry at them for leaving you. You're angry at someone because they didn't respond. They didn't call you quick enough. They didn't. Turmoil is for the anger stage of grief. That's what it was created for.
Okay. And then unity. Unity, there's a lot to be said about unity, but we'll try to keep this a little short. It promotes harmony, not only within ourselves, but with the people around us, and then also with our creator. It is one of the very best essential oils for fostering that sense of mental and physical well-being.
And if benediction doesn't work for you and in blocking other people's negative energy,
Unity will.
Unity will. Okay.
Yeah. And that can be part of depression too. And maybe it's a symptom, maybe it's a cause. It's hard to say, but most depressed people don't want to leave the house. They don't want to have a social life. And the very thought of doing that is depressing. It gives them anxiety. And unity and benediction are the two that if you have to go out, you've got to go to the grocery store, you've got to go to your son's graduation. There are things in life you can't miss while you're getting over your depression. One of those two oils will make it easier. First time seeing your live. Well, welcome, Kim. It's nice to see you. I hope you learn something and hope you enjoy it. We're sure having fun. We've been at this for.
This is the most time her and I spent together.
It actually is.
I don't know, since we started running off to the farmers market.
That's true. I really enjoy that. That's been really fun. All right. We're now to my mom's favorite part, and that's going to be homeopathic remedies. And if you're buying your homeopathics from Butterfly Express, they call them blessed waters.
And they are an energetic version of a homeopathic.
They're very similar to homeopathics. You can buy them interchangeably. You can get a lot of homeopathics on Amazon too. It doesn't really matter where you get them. We're going to go through quite a few because the fact is that there are literally hundreds.
And I don't think that, talking about each one, but if you go to the flower essence repertory and you look up depression, there's going to be a whole list.
Yep.
And if you go to a regular repertory for the entire homeopathic world, there's going to be an even bigger list.
Yep.
So all I want to accomplish here is to start you thinking about the keynotes of your or your family members' particular depression. So I picked 5 or 6, because they had definite keynotes. I'm trying to teach a little homeopathic class while we're here.
and then instead of looking up depression and seeing hundreds and hundreds of homeopathics listed, you can look up a symptom of that depression and see 5 or 6. It makes it a much quicker way to narrow it down. Another really fascinating way and the best way to make sure you have the right one is to muscle test it. And if you're not familiar with muscle testing or you want to learn about muscle testing, there is a blog on butterflyexpressions.net called Kinesiology and different ways to become, if you already muscle test, but you're not confident in it, there's a lot that can be done from that blog. So, all right. Flower essences is where we're going to start.
Black-eyed Susan. And the keynote to it is whatever the depression is, it's tied to a traumatic experience from the past.
Skipped a very important part.
Oh, sorry.
I want to talk about why Bach flowers and how they work.
Really quick. We do that on most blogs.
We do, but it's important, especially for people like Paula who've never been here. Oh, it was Kim. Kim, this is the first time she's ever seen us on live, and maybe she's never heard of a Bach flower.
Okay.
I don't know.
Flower essences. What they're assuming here is that if you treat a person for their emotional imbalance, they will become well and happy. And And Dr. Bach was a great one to believe that he actually divided his remedies into categories. And one of those categories is for those who suffer from despondency and despair. But to quote him, behind all our diseases lies our fears, our anxieties, our greeds, our likes, and our dislikes. And true healing involves knowing who you are and what you respond to, more importantly. Treat people for their emotional unhappiness, allow them to be happy, and they will become well. And when I first came across Bach flowers, are we still up and running? All those years ago, it was just amazing to me. Seriously, you can look at how I react to things, rather I like to be in crowds, rather I prefer to be alone, and you can tell me what will work for me. And it was an amazing, amazing thing. They're very low potency remedies. They're made very gently. They literally soak flower leaves in water in the sun, and the remedies are made from that. It just astonished me that they worked at all. And I've been using them for 30 years.
In my younger married days, whenever my husband and I would have a quarrel or an argument that we couldn't seem to work past, I would test us each for a Bach flower. And it was amazing how it changes the way that you feel about the particular issue. A couple of days goes by and you're like, not even sure what you were fighting about. It just
That's the beauty of a Bach flower.
Off of it.
They'll look at you the next time you work with them, the next foot zone, and they can't even relate to the negative emotion that was the whole focus of their last session. They've moved so far behind it, they can't even imagine themselves thinking.
We had this question that says, thank you both for this essential oil coverage. Wondering if you could recommend an oil to aid in keeping blood pressure stable. And we actually did.
There is a blood pressure
on that, blog. And I'm just going to add that to the comments right there. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that, there will be a possible solution section like we always get to. And there we'll break it down by oils, herbs.
Somebody just commented on Stephanie from Hawaii is her favorite teacher. Yes, I do know who you're referring to, and she is amazing. I'm happy you live close.
My teacher from Hawaii.
Stephanie Markham.
Yeah.
So amazing young gal. So.
And anything for bipolar. Wow, we're going to digress today.
You're going to have some time on the computer today, dear.
Yeah. I don't know where it went. Bipolar is not one that we've covered specifically, but we did talk about it a little earlier in this live. We didn't talk about solutions. We've mostly talked about what it is and how to recognize it. But some of the Bach flowers are a huge thing for
in my experience, nutritional deficiency.
And it's a nutrition thing.
Is
and focus on finding things that help them sleep.
And a light.
Calcium and magnesium right before they go to bed can be a wonderful sleep aid. The good night oil is a wonderful thing to help them sleep. And one of the hugest things for me is the BBL tincture. That BBL tincture, and the best thing is to take it at noon and then take it right before you go to bed.
And to realize that the high and the low are two halves of the same coin.
Yes, they are.
And, we think, oh, well, I'll treat the high with sedative type herbs and I'll treat the low with stimulating type herbs. And
balance.
No, balance.
How often will we be doing lives? We do a live every other Wednesday.
We try to anyway.
We do 2 a month, and so if there are 5 Wednesdays, we pick our favorite 2. The 2 is so we're coming into August.
Like next month, she's going on track, so kind of
I am
limited to this one. So
So next month we're doing them on the 7th and the 21st, and the 7th is going to be about making herbal medicines.
Oh, really?
Spoiler alert! All the tinctures are going on sale in August, and so we're going to be talking about how you can make your own. Why you'd want to, what the different types of herbal remedies. We'll talk about teas and glycerin herbs versus alcohol tinctures. And
I find it interesting that I chose to write that, and I didn't know that they were putting all the tinctures.
Yeah,
that was kind of a serendipitous little thing. So.
Hi from California,
Carrie. Huh? Hi, Carrie.
I have some friends in California. And then there was a hello, first time watching. Awesome, cool. And then the other live that we're doing in August is. We were supposed to have done it in June, but we didn't. We had tenacity, and we had another one that started with tolerance, and we did the wrong one. Anyway, we did tenacity, and we're going to do tolerance.
I like tenacity.
Tolerance and essential oils. So there's 2 topics that go hand in hand. I'll tell you what. So
anyway, back to Bach flower.
No, I'm not done.
Okay.
So when we do our lives, our one on the physical thing tends to be a lot longer, like this depression. This is a long life for us. Typically our emotional one's 15, 20 minutes and we let you go.
Yes, we don't.
So, and all of our past lives are watchable on YouTube. The channel is Butterfly Expressions Essential Oils. we would really, really, really appreciate some positive comments, and we love it when people subscribe to that channel. So there you go. There's my whole. Now we can go back to.
I'm going to do this so fast they're going to be amazed. Okay.
Bach flowers.
So Bach flowers, one of his 5 categories was despondency and despair. Those who feel despondency and despair. So we started with black-eyed Susan, tied to traumatic events in the past. Green cross gentian, that is clinical depression. They're so depressed and so unable to function that can't even get by in life, you know.
Yep.
Connected to, and this is an odd one, they're so depressed because of the way people treat each other and the way they don't, you know.
Oh,
Yeah. So positive qualities as you emerge from that, it's the desire to help others, the unconditional love for your fellow man. It's a beautiful remedy. I wish I could tell you the stories of the times I have seen this one turn a life around.
Sierra Primrose is that one for lack of gratitude.
Lack of gratitude or boredom, fatigue, you know, you just
Have
nothing
any
matters.
energy to do anything, but you don't want to do anything, but you're bored and you want to do something. And you don't wanna do
Fireweed,
anything.
surprisingly, you know, what is a
Balancing
fire
yourself.
like? It's depression with erratic and irrational behavior. So you flame and you flare. So it's a bipolar one in some ways. So
Yeah. Your Joshua tree is linked to the inability to break out of a destructive relationship.
and you know,
You know it's bad, but you stay anyway.
and what I see as people emerge from that is compassion for the family member or the relationship they were in. And that gives them the ability to both break free, but break free with kindness and tenacity. You know, I really am gone and I'm really going to stay gone. But here's what I can do for you that is helpful, you know.
The last one is mustard, and this one is melancholy.
Deep despair. Deep
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manic depressive here is another
Here's
one. The
another
bipolar, the
bipolar.
mood swings. Mustard is a great one for that. So while there are many others, that's the ones I just to point out to you that depression has many faces.
One of my favorite things, I mean, Bach flowers are amazing, and the subtle way that they change our emotions is amazing. But what I really love about Bach flowers, they're cheap. A couple of bucks.
My husband yesterday was in quite a pressure situation, and I am married to a very intelligent man, and he just wasn't focusing. And it was frustrating me to the ends of the earth. And I walked into your husband's office and I was just flying. And your husband looked at me and he said, take him a Bach flower and then make yourself one. And best piece of advice in the best 3 minutes I spent all day.
Yep.
And I
Those
watched
are
it
amazing.
change.
Flower
I mean,
essences.
he just relaxed and focused, and I was able to calm down and go back to work. And it was,
Yeah.
I'm not used to him
They're
being
amazing.
scattered like that because he's always so focused.
One thing to know about Bach flowers is that they will typically, if you're testing out for them, they will test in pairs of 6.
So
And
every
all
one
6
of
can go in the
those,
same bottle.
every one of those that we talked about was so different that it probably has 4 or 5 companions.
Yep.
You won't use all 6 of those because they're so varied,
Yep.
but you will that with something else.
And on, I think on the website that there is a page on the flower essences. You can read a little bit about each one. That helps it makes it easier to test from them. All right, we're going to move on.
Cell salts.
Yes.
Biochemic, bio meaning life, chemistry of life. And what the cell salts basically do is help you uptake the nutrients in that brand new diet that you're eating with all those good green vegetables and colored things in it. So
It's important to understand that our bodies are made up of organic salt. They make up the composition of our cells in our blood, and by taking cell salts, we're replenishing that. And there are 12 cell salts. We're not going to cover all of them. We're just going to cover the 3 that really relate to depression, and that is calcauria chlorata, which is the fluoride of lime. And
fear of poverty, fear
Yep.
of financial crisis and loss, uncharacteristically indecisive, unusual focus on money and
issues.
security. So
yeah. And then caliphosphorinum, which is the number 6 in the
anything
cell
with
salt.
phos in it is always fatigue.
Yep.
It's nervous system health and fatigue.
Caliphosphorinum is phosphate of potash.
It's depression brought on
And this
by
one-
stress.
This one is for the uptake of nutrients. It's particular for nerve health.
But do remember that brought on by stress and the weariness and the fatigue.
Yep, that's a keynote of that one. And the last one is magnesia phosphorica, which is phosphate of magnesia.
It's a phos, so there's going to be fatigue and weariness. Okay.
And it's also going to be overwrought nerves.
But yeah, I said the difference between Caliphos and Magphos is Caliphos people are just stressed and depressed, but a Magphos person is also nervous.
Markedly
They're
on
pacing,
edge.
they're on edge, they're not getting anything done, and they're so tired they can't breathe, but they also can't rest.
Restless leg syndrome. We did a blog about that not too long ago, and this is a keynote symptom for if you are doing restless leg, magnesium phosphoric. So if you're doing restless leg and depression, that's two. Anyway, all right, we're gonna move on.
I don't. Where are we moving on to?
Minerals. And we already kind of talked about them a little bit when we talked about herbs and getting your minerals through different herbs. But you actually can get liquid minerals. And I talked about it a few minutes ago when we was talking about bipolar and sleep. Calcium and magnesium, the best way to take those two are as a liquid. And there are forms of calcium, the powdered forms like Tums, that will actually make you sick. And what happens is your kidneys are unable to deal with that. And so they take that calcium and they hide it away as a stone and they encapsulate it. And then you pass kidney stones. And so the way that you get your minerals is important. Getting them through your herbs, getting them through your food is absolutely the best way to get them. Liquid is amazing, and don't do anything else, especially Tums.
Okay, I'm just looking a little ahead here, and I'm thinking, I tried to teach a mini homeopathic class here, didn't I?
You did. Most of the ways that she's talking about minerals in this article are minerals through homeopathics and through changing the way that you absorb them. But if you know, for instance, that you are not getting decent sleep and it's a calcium magnesium deficiency, there are people, and I've seen this work, and I've talked to hundreds of people that this has worked for them. They will eat vanilla ice cream with chocolate sauce right before they go to bed, because that's when their body needs to absorb it, and the ice cream has the calcium
and magnesium,
and the magnesium is found in chocolate. So it's a lovely fix as long as you don't mind
the sugar high.
Getting fat. We were just about to put a link in the comments to the rest of the blog so you could just read about it. Which, honestly, with the amount of homeopathics that there are specific for minerals and absorption, it might not have been a bad idea anyway. So I did just add that link to the depression article, and we were most of the way to the bottom. We were under mineral remedies, which is the last section of the blog, and it does talk about the subsets of the minerals, your natriums, your carbons, your magnesiums, and then
natriums are your depression remedies.
Yes,
they are your ER remedies, although calcerias often fall in there because they're overly sensitive to criticism, full of fears and insecurities, which can throw you right into depression.
So the best thing to do would be
Callies are about duty. You're not doing all the things you should be in your life. So, mineral deficiency.
Is to read down through them and highlight the parts that fit to you, and then pick the one that is highlighted the most. And anyway, there are quite a few. It's a good read.
As usual, I got really, really wordy.
rather too wordy than have the piece we're looking for not be there. We do want to take a few minutes and talk about some other possible remedies.
Lilium, I put here trigrinum because its effect on the heart and the female hormones.
This is a good one for your baby blues.
And you can usually tell the person's in a hurry. They want to do several things at once. They become nervous and kind of snappish at you if you get in their way.
CP is another one. Personality type.
So, yeah, those two for women in postpartum depression or any kind of depression. So.
Stramonium is for deep, very alarming symptoms, particularly ones with that psychosis, that
the paranoia, the schizophrenia,
delirium,
that kind of thing. Yeah. So stramonium is a deep one. So
yeah.
What's the one? Gold is aurum metallicum. I didn't mention that one here, but when that one tests up for somebody, it's suicide watch. Aurum is a
taking gold as a liquid mineral about November, December, January often will help with people who are feeling suicidal. If you know a person who's on suicide watch and you're doing everything you can, getting them on a little liquid gold mineral is not a bad idea. It's not a bad one to take in the winter months anyways. But okay, Hypericum perforatum is a general depression homeopathic.
Seasonal affective
all
disorder.
Types of depression, but particularly seasonal affective disorder, especially if that depression came as a result of an emotional shock.
And the way I usually see this one manifest is mistakes in writing, omitting letters, mistakes in speaking. They're searching for a word. You can see this one coming, the Hypericum. So,
okay,
lac vaccinum, butricum, buttermilk, in other words, deep depression. The future looks dark. nothing looks like it will ever be better. So claustrophobia is often a part of this one. So
In the book, the Homeopathic Butterfly Miracles with Homeopathic Remedies, that one is pink. In that book, there is a section
titled
about depression, and it's right about
Suicide.
page 250, 252, once the book's been updated
Yeah.
since this
It
life.
hasn't been, I checked, but it might be
Well,
updated
in the
before someone
future,
reads it. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Color and sound remedies, they're another form of homeopathic can
they're
be,
new to the homeopathic market, and they're amazing.
and there are some amazing ones that fit for depression there. And again, you just want to pull up this blog and read through them, and see which one which one fits you. There's so much information there that it would take us another hour to go through.
A couple of things. The red one and the
Fight or
middle
flight.
C is an adrenal gland thing. And orange is a reproductive system thing, so it's hormones.
Yep.
And violet and B have to do with light, seasonal affective disorder.
Yep.
So depending on where your issues are, what you'll need there.
If you or someone you know is fighting depression, one modality that you want to look into, consider, probably do, would be cranial sacral therapy.
There's actually a therapy in there called the triad of endogenous depression. Now that's a big word. What does endogenous mean? It means we don't know why you're depressed. Okay. So cranial sacral can make a big difference.
Yep, it works on that compression triad. And cranial sacral therapy, the best way to think about cranial sacral therapy, if you're not familiar with it and we've just thrown something at you that's brand new, is cranial sacral therapy is kind of like a gentle chiropractor, but they're not limited to only the skeletal structure. They can work on the energetic centers of the body. They can work on nerves. A
The
good
fascia
craniologist
and the
the fascia and
cranial sacral fluid in the body.
Yep.
So
they are absolutely amazing. And they're not it's like a massage, but it's not. It's more of an energetic touch, and they're convincing things in your body to move.
keep
where
all
they
your
should have
clothes
been.
on, which is nice.
Yes.
And it's a modality that we learned, and I can honestly tell you it has blessed some lives in my family.
Yep.
I do teach it. I love to teach it. Anyway, that would be fun if we got a
Yeah,
class of
cranial
that together.
sacral
So.
is it's absolutely amazing. In fact, my husband went to a craniologist this morning. His hyoid has been absolutely jammed and just locked up in here, and this guy's absolutely amazing. There are craniosacral therapists. There's a lot of them out there practicing now. Do your due diligence, find out how long they've been studying, how much
And what we teach is
education
the
they have.
basics.
Is the
It's
basic
designed to
10-step
give
protocol.
mothers somewhat to do, and then if you're in over your head, you go find somebody else. So.
Yep. There's a great book on Amazon. I think it's over $100, though. It's called The Heart of Listening, and that is a very in-depth cranial book.
Yes, it is.
And I own a copy of it. I do only the 10-step protocol as far as cranial is concerned. But if I get in over my head, I typically take them to someone that's better than
I've
me.
branched out quite a ways further than that.
But I will use that book to look up, and I used it to work on my husband somewhat before we decided that if he was going to beat all of his
The
issues,
guy
he
he's
needed a
going to is kind
professional.
of a cross between a cranial sacral therapist and an osteo, because
He is-
he's jerking things around far
He's
more than
awesome.
most cranial people will, and he is good. Yeah.
He has had an incredible amount of training, but he is typically in Chicago, so he flies up here once in a while. He's booked out. He's hard to get to. He's expensive. But on the website, butterflyexpress.net, there's a section called professionals, and you can look up craniologists by state and find one close to you. But craniologists can often clear emotional blockages that nobody else can. Okay. Exercise and sunlight are huge for dealing with depression. Getting moving, getting your lymph fluid going, getting exercise naturally causes the release of hormones that are happy hormones. You wouldn't think so. It's like, it doesn't sound like any fun at all. But when you get done exercising, there's a high that comes with that.
I'm literally addicted to exercise.
She is.
I start my day with it.
I don't.
Every day.
I exercise a little bit. But and then the light thing, if light helps your depression, vitamin D, you're almost for sure deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah.
Okay. Eating and drinking. Depression is fed by not having enough fluids in your body. If you're not getting your 8 glasses of water or more a day, then you're setting yourself up for depression. So what you eat, we've already talked about that a half a dozen times, but it's huge. The way we eat really affects our depression.
And I don't want to skip that service one.
I don't want to talk about
foot zoned. Okay, well, as I foot zoned over the years, and I would work with depressed teenagers, I found the very best thing to do was to give them someone to help, a little neighbor younger than them who was struggling with math. Anything, even if it was only 10 minutes a day, take the focus off their own sadness. And like Valerie described, coming home to rescue mother in this growing business was a great help to her.
Yeah. So when I started looking around, seeing, well, I could do that. People would stop by to get an oil here and there, and I swear that my mom would have to sit down and figure out what it cost her, and then the next day someone would come to get that same oil. What did we sell that for? And I don't remember. So she sit down and figure it out again. Like, I could make a price
I can organize my mother's mind.
And
she had great cause to be depressed.
I did.
But that's her story.
So service is a huge thing. Finding, and sometimes it's not that you need to do more service, it's that you need to acknowledge that what you're doing is a service, particularly if you're a mom. Everything that you do all day long is a service, but you need to look at it that way and going, I'm doing this because I love them. I'm doing this for them, not just because it's my job, because I have to, and it's monotonous at that point.
I said I'd never been depressed until, the last year, but I remember being discouraged in life. It's all about the kids. It's all about all day long. And my wise husband told me, do one thing every day that you will never have to do again. And he sat down with me and helped me make a list. Work 10 minutes on refinishing a table, read and memorize a poem. It'll be yours for life. Just 10 minutes a day on something you don't have to do again can help a mother's depression. There aren't very many of those things. You make a meal, you have to make another one. You do the wash, you'll have to do it again.
Well, you have to cook, but by picking something that is one of your kids' favorite, then all of a sudden it's become a service. You're doing this because it's going to make them happy, not just because you need to feed the family again. Yeah. So it sometimes in the way we do our tasks, change what we have to do anyway to make it a service. This one is huge. If you know that you're depressed and you know that you're trying not to let people around you know that you're depressed and you're trying to just muddle through and get through it, pick one person.
Go find a friend.
And confide in them, I am depressed. And get them to check up on you. That it's hard to give someone that kind of responsibility, but you need that. And that's hugely important.
Yeah, find a friend.
Tell them once.
Don't go over and over and over it. Don't dig a trench of
depression. And don't tell the person the same stories every week. Just make sure that they're aware of it and focus more on that. I'm feeling better. I'm doing better. Yeah.
We mentioned this one before. Live in the present. You can't change the past.
You can't control the future.
And you have way less control over the future than you would like to think.
That is a huge thing. Okay. We want to finish up our analogy for anybody that was here earlier. Close your eyes and picture that boat that was being tossed around in that relentless storm, and picture that ship coming safely into a harbor. Imagine that it has been moored securely to the dock. There's now ropes that are angling it and holding it to that dock. And that ship, which is us, those ropes are keeping it from floating out away into the ocean of sadness and despair or poor health or whatever was causing the depression. Perhaps you can liken those lines to the rituals of our daily lives, of taking care of our children, of getting ourselves to work. Those are our ropes. Those are the things that are tying us here and making us not want to end it all.
That is such an important piece, that getting up in the morning and showing up on time.
I need to be here for them, for the people around us. The storm is raging on somewhere, but your little boat is parked in a safe harbor and it's moored to a dock. Okay, we hope that this has been educational. We hope that you've learned something, and we hope that you love essential oils as much as we do and are grateful for them. We hope that someday you can all come see us and smell oils with us, but if not.
I was so interested in what I heard going on out there this morning. I came out with my hair dripping wet and no makeup on. It was like, I don't know. There were just some people out there and they were talking about
having a good
time. They were
I
selling
love
oil.
it. When I happen through the business and someone's there for the first time, they're about to go on a tour, but in the meantime, they're smelling all the oils that, I wanted to smell this and I wanted to smell that one. And it's great sometimes to get a sample of an oil before you invest in it and see if you're going to like it as much as
you think you're
going to. All right. Thanks for joining us today. And sorry about our little glitch in the middle, but at least we were able to finish. Check out the blog and we'll see you on YouTube.